Hello. In this video, we will discuss SAS datasets and libraries. On your computer, I believe you have files, and the files are organized into folders, right? And in SAS, we have SAS datasets, and the datasets are organized into SAS libraries. So basically, each SAS dataset physically corresponds to a file on your disk or maybe on cloud storage. Yeah, and so those folders are essentially SAS libraries. By default, so SAS defines several libraries for us to use. The first one is SAS help. So this is a permanent library. Yeah, so it contains sample data and more. So this is a read-only, means you can only read dataset from this library, but you cannot write or modify data in this library. So the other one is SAS users, right? So this is a permanent library. So you save your permanent data files here. And so the last one is work. So this is a temporary library. So by default, so every dataset created will be saved here. And so all contents in this library will be removed when a SAS session ends. So you can find the library here, see, on the left panel of the SAS Studio. So if you click library, you can see, so those are a list of libraries. So this is SAS help, so we just mentioned, right? So it contains, there are many contents here. So there's another one called SAS user, right? So this is also we mentioned, so you can put information here. So work, so this is default. And so there's some other SAS libraries. So how can we use a SAS library? So we can link a SAS library to a path using the lib name statement. Yeah, so this is the syntax, and so this is an example. So basically, we first write a lib name, and so then you just specify a name for the SAS library. Yeah, so here I just call it my lib. And so these are the rules for naming a SAS library. So it must be 8 or fewer characters. So must begin with a letter or underscore. So remaining characters can be letters, numbers, or underscores. Yeah, so it cannot contain any special symbols. And so after that, so within this quotation mark, so you just list a location. And so because so we are using SAS Studio, I mean the online version, right? Yeah, so then this is a typical, so how you write a link. Yeah, so you will say slash the home slash username. So this username is just the name you log in to SAS Studio online. Yeah, so then this just will be some other folders. I mean, so in here, right? Just will be any folders here. Okay. Yeah, and so notice, so if you delete a SAS library, so means the pointer to the library is deleted. And so SAS no longer has access to the library. Yeah, but however, so the contents of the library still exist in your operating system. So with the concept of SAS library, so then every SAS dataset essentially has a two-level name. Yeah, so like this one, so we use a dot. This is a period, right? So before the period, so this is the name of a SAS library, and after that, so this is the name of a dataset. So for example, like this one, so my lib.grades. So this just means a dataset named grades is in the library mylib. And so it is actually a file, so with this name. So this file extension, yeah, so this is just the default file extension for SAS data files. And so if the default library, so if the name of the library is missing, so then the default library should be work. Yeah, for example, so in the past, we create a SAS dataset with the name grades. So it essentially means so work.grades. Yeah, so when you read the SAS log message in the past, and so you may notice, so there is always this work. Okay. Yeah, so maybe we can demonstrate some examples. So this is just the example we have before, right? Maybe with slight modification, right? So maybe we can just first try to run the code we have before. Okay, so this is the first code we discussed. See, we create a data grades, right? See, after you run this one, so then you create a data set, so called grades. So where to find it? See, if you click the library, my library, and work, so you will see, so there is a new data set appeared here, right? Yeah, so it appears in the work library. Yeah, so after you exit SAS, or maybe the end SAS session, and so then everything in this library will be removed. Okay. So this just shows one example to define a library. So then I use the library name. So this is name of the library. So this is a link. So /home then ZENGPN. So this is my login ID to SAS Studio, right? So then after I run that, so then I create a new dataset. So the name of the dataset is this one. So this just means, so I want SAS to create a dataset with this name, and so this dataset is placed in this library. So basically in this location. Yeah. So let me run this part. Okay. See. Then you can, in the my library, I think, so you should be able to see a new library, right? So my lab, yeah, you can see, so it has one grades. So you can also go to here, go to the file, go to the home, right? You can see in here, so there is a file, right? So with the name grades, and so the file extension is SAS7BDAT. Yeah, so this is just the, newly created SAS dataset by my SAS code, right? And so from the library, so you can also notice, right? See, there is a grades here, there is a grades here. So although these two dataset has the same name, but because they are placed in different libraries, so essentially they are two different SAS datasets. Okay. Yeah. Temporary and permanent SAS dataset. So all contents in the work library, because they will be removed when you close SAS, right? So all dataset in work library is temporary. Yeah, and so if you want a permanent SAS dataset, so you should create a library on your cloud storage space. And so then you basically put your dataset there. Yeah, so like also what I do, right? See, because in here, so you will be able to see this data, right? So this is permanent data. Yeah, so what I mean is, so even after you close SAS, right? So then you reopen SAS, then you log in again. Yeah, so then this data is still there. So let's have a question, right? See, so here I just create 3 libraries. Yeah, you can see just corresponds to 3 different folder. Yeah, so notice the lab 1 and lab 3, so they are point to the same location. So then the question is, so are the following SAS datasets same or different? So the first one is my data, then lab 1 my data, lab 2 my data, lab 3 my data. So first I want to say, so my data, so definitely will be different from the remaining, right? Because this one, the name of the library is missing. So then it means work dot my data, right? Yeah. So what I mean is, it essentially means work dot my data, right? So because every data set so must have a library. Yeah. So if the library name is missing, just means it is work, right? So this one definitely will different from the remaining data set. The lab 1 my data and the lab 3 my data, so they are essentially the same. Yeah, because although the name of the library are different, but they point to the same location. Yeah, so then these two are essentially point to the same physical file, right? But lab 2 dot my data, cause it point to a different location, right? So it is a different file. Yeah, so as a summary, my data, so this is different from the remaining three, right? And so lab 1 and lab 3 my data, so they are the same. And so lab 2 my data are different. Yeah, so this is what I said. So each SAS dataset corresponds to a file. So called this extension, this is the file extension. Because so this is a SAS dataset, then this type of file can be exactly read and used in SAS. So what you need to do is you just for this type of file, so you just upload this file to your own cloud storage in a appropriate location, and so then you create a SAS library, and so then you can directly use it. So let me show you an example. And on the course website, so you should be able to find this one, right? It's called employee.sas7bdta. So this is a SAS data file. So then you download this file. So then you upload this file. I upload this file to this location. I mean in a folder. So the database. Then here, right, you can see. So this is employee.sas7bdat. Yeah, so if I want to show the contents of this dataset, so this is what I do, right? So first I create a library. Yeah, so I call it my lab 2. So then I point to this direction. See, if you want to know the location, you click property. So this is the location of the file, right? So basically you just ignore the file name. Yeah, so you just choose the path to that file. Yeah, so basically the home pen then /datasets. Yeah, so this is what I have here, right? So then I create a dataset. So then if I want to show the contents, I directly say print. Yeah, so then see, then I will refer to this dataset as, so you first include the name of the library and then use a dot and then name of the dataset. Yeah, so the name of the dataset will be exactly the name of the file. Yeah, okay, so let me run it. Yeah, you can see, so this is just shows the contents of the SAS dataset. Okay, yeah, and for a SAS dataset, so it contains two parts. So the first one called a descriptor portion, and the other one called data portion. The descriptor portion just contains just some summary information about the dataset. For example, so name of the dataset, so when the dataset was created, and maybe the number of observations, number of variables, and the property of each variable. Yeah, so basically, so this descriptor portion just, if you run proc contents, yeah, so proc contents just show the descriptor portion of a dataset. And so the data portion just contains the actual data in a rectangular table. Yeah, so if you run procedure, so proc print, so it shows the data portion of a dataset, right? Yeah, so in the data portion, so we have one row for one observation, and so one column for one variable. Yeah, so every variable and observation must have a value, and so missing value is allowed, right? So let me show you something, another trick for the proc contents. So we can use proc contents to show the contents of one whole library, right? See, in this data SAS help we mentioned, so this is a library created by SAS automatically. So the dot after that, so we should put the name of the variable, right? The name of the dataset, right? But here, so we say underscore or underscore. Yeah, so this is a SAS keyword. Yeah, so this just means so every or maybe all dataset in this library. Yeah, so no DS, just no information, no descriptor information, right? So basically SAS will just only show a list of names of those dataset or maybe the contents in that library. Yeah, so let me copy paste this one to here and let's run. So let's run this one. You can see, so this just shows kind of a summary information for all dataset, or maybe some other, you can see member type, right? So some of them are SAS dataset, and some of them are index, and some are catalog, right? I think so we are interested just dataset. There is, yeah, so for example, so if you want to check one dataset in more detail, so for example, so airline, can we see airline? Airline, yeah, so here, so this is a data, right? Yeah, so if you want to check the contents of this dataset, proc contents, data equals SAS help airline, run, right? Yeah, so then you can check the contents of this dataset. So it has in total 144 observations, and it has 3 variables. So here, so you can also find the list of variables in this dataset. Yeah, so it has air and a date and a region, right? So of course, so you can also use a proc print, maybe because this dataset is small, right? So we can use a proc print to check the contents of this one, SAS help, airline, run, right? Yeah, so this just check what the contents of this dataset, right? Yeah, so again, so we have a proc contents and the proc print. Proc contents shows the descriptor portion of a dataset, and the proc print shows the data portion of a dataset. Yeah, so last one. Okay, so this is in-class exercise. I recommend so you pause the video for a while, and so you try those exercise by yourself first. Okay, so let's try to work on this exercise together. So first, create a folder, so named stat 61110 110. I think so I have this folder already. Okay. Define a library associated with this folder, and so load the data to a SAS dataset in this library, right? So let me do it in this way. Okay. Let me lab name, right? Maybe I call this a new lab. So then I need this point to this location. This is stat 61110 and end the statement with semicolon, right? So the question is ask you to load the blood pressure, load this CSV data to this library. I think so I have code to upload this data, so I just want to modify that slightly. Okay. Yeah, so then I use a file name, right? So this just create a token for this blood pressure for this data set. I use proc import to create a data. Yeah. And see, out equals blood. Yeah, so this one, so by default, so this data set will be created in the work library. Yeah, but right now, so I want this to be placed in my, new lab library. So then I add new lab.blood. Right now, so we check this one. You can see, so there are some files here. Yeah, so let's run this code, and so then you notice the difference. So run the code. You can see there is a new file appeared here. It's called blood.sars7bdat, right? Yeah, so this is just a new data set just created by my SAS code. What's next? So locate the file and with this one. I think we find that. Copy this one to a different location and rename it. So can you use proc print to show the contents again, right? So copy, maybe a copy to, right? Maybe I copy to, maybe to this miss. Okay, yeah. So let's copy it to this location. So miscellaneous, right? And so then I want to rename it. Yeah, rename it. Okay, so instead of blood, so I say maybe a new blood. Okay, yeah, so rename it. So then if I want to want to show the contents of this one first, right? So I need create a SAS library. So library, so I call it lib2, right? So then the location is home, my user ID, so then miss, right? Okay, so end the statement with semicolon. So then I proc print data equal lib2 dot new blood and run, right? Notice, see, before the dot, so this will be the name of the library, and after dot, so this will be name of the dataset. And so name of the dataset is exactly the name of the file. Yeah, so then I run this one. You can see, so SAS can show me the contents of the file, right? Yeah, so basically, so this just demonstrates so how to create a permanent dataset, and so also how to read that dataset, right? So SAS help library has a dataset called cars, which contains information on some cars. Yeah, ask you, so how many observations, how many variables. For number of observations and variables, so usually, so we use a proc contents to check that, right? Yeah, so then we use proc contents data. So the name of the library is SAS help, and so this is cars, right? Okay, so we run this one. Yeah, so name of observations, you can see, so 428. So this is the total number of observations, and so number of variables we have 15. So down here you can see, so that's a list of variables in this dataset. Find the mean, standard deviation, minimum, maximum of MSRP. Yeah, so this is a variable MSRP, right? Yeah, so then we can just want to mean standard deviation, right? So that's numerical, summary statistics. Yeah, so we use proc means the cars, and so we want that information for MSRP. MSRP, yes, MSRP. Okay, Yeah, so then we run this one. You can see, yeah, so this just shows the minimum, the mean standard deviation, minimum, maximum, right? So those summary statistics for these variable. What the percentage of cars are SUV? Yeah, so this is related to the variable type. Yeah, so then we just show a frequency, SAS help cars. We show frequency for type. So the table type. You can see, so SUV, right? So roughly 14.02% of the cars are SUV. Okay. Yeah, so this is the end of this video.